That's what I'm talking about. What's going on, everyone? Welcome, Arvanauts. Welcome, everyone from all over the internet-verse, the Twitch-verse, the D&D-verse, the DM-verse. Welcome to the inaugural Masters of the Dungeon DM Roundtable show. I am Arvin Eleron. I am one of your hosts, not the only host. And it is a pleasure to welcome everybody here to this show. I want to, first off, thank the incredible Kevin MacLeod from Incompetech.com, who produced that opening song, which is called Killers. And if you guys don't know Kevin MacLeod, you actually do know Kevin MacLeod, because he's done every song that you've ever heard on a D&D show, and you never knew who made it. Now you actually know. And Kevin MacLeod actually recently followed me on Twitch, which was my slight fanboy music moment, so I was pretty excited about that. But anyway, it is a pleasure to see you guys all here, and I hope you are looking forward to an awesome show tonight with the guys. Before I introduce them, quick reminder about ways that you can support the show and this channel. Please, if you haven't done so already, please retweet the stream. I saw some people doing that already, but please do so. Do more of that. Exclamation point CTT will allow you to do that. Please check out past broadcasts of this and other streams on my YouTube channel, exclamation point ArvTube. Steam Group will get you over to the Steam Group where you can see announcements of this, exclamation point Steam Group. Exclamation point Discord will get you over to the Discord where you can see the same thing. And last but certainly not least, we have the Patreon, exclamation point ArvTreon, which allows you to support the channel in other ways and help support ventures like this and others. And last, of course, subscribing, which is that awesome video button, purple button that you see right above the video window. This is the inaugural episode of Masters of the Dungeon, and before I go any further, I do want to mention that this is going to run for about 90 minutes. Afterwards, I'll take a slight break, and then we'll move on to The Last Guardian on my channel, and I'll be playing D&D tomorrow on Saturday, but I'll talk more about that as time goes on. So welcome to everybody from all the different channels that I see here. It's awesome to see you guys here. Hey, what's up, Lauren? And I'm looking forward to talking more to all of you about stuff like that. And so with that said, I am going to, as always, unmute myself so that the wonderful gentleman over there can hear that we're about ready to go. And then I'm going to unmute them. And then I'm going to slide over. Oh, my God.
So quit talking.
There they are. What's going on, guys? It is a pleasure to have everyone here. And you can see these fine-looking gentlemen arrayed around that D&D logo. In the center of your screen are the members of the Masters of the Dungeon Roundtable. This is D&D Elite. So I just want you all to know that you are in the happening place for D&D. You've heard of Geek and Sundry, Critical Role, that's fine. But the true elite is right here. I'm just kidding. But it is a pleasure to have everybody here.
Hashtag sponsored by Geek and Sundry.
Hashtag sponsored by Geek and Sundry, yes. No, hashtag please sponsor us. That's right. That's the answer. But it's a pleasure to have everybody here. And yeah, thanks everyone to chat for being here as well.
We're not voice actors.
Yeah, exactly. We're not voice exactly. We're not voice actors, but we are DMs, and that is our expertise here today. I will move clockwise around the overlay, as it were. So I will start with my good friend from Encounter Roleplay, Will. Hello, Will. How is life, sir? You should introduce yourself to the three people that don't yet know you on the Twitch. So you should tell them who you are.
Nice to meet you, Arvin. My name's Will. Scranton Dave. My name's Will. I'm from Encounter Roleplay. I'm a D&D sex icon, and I'm having a good time. You know, I don't usually work on a Thursday. I know what day it is. A Friday.
That's good, because you're not working on Thursday either. So.
Shit. Yeah, so I'm chilling. You know, got a couple of beers, got a couple of folks in chat. Looking forward to chat some D&D tonight, and yeah, and Dreamboat Will, how's it going, McGraw? So yeah, I'm fucking having a good time, man. I'm glad to be here. I'm ready to best Geek and Sundry at every single level, as you've set the bar pretty high, and I'm ready to jump over it.
You're ready to leap over it headlong.
Actually, I'm ready to limbo underneath it. I think where I am at right now. Right,
as long as you clear the bar above or below, that's all that really matters here on this show.
That's how limbo works, right?
That's how it works, no question. Yeah, as long as you're there. It is a pleasure to have Will with us, and moving along right below Will. I feel always at this point I'm always introducing the Brady Bunch. So right below Will in that window, we've got, of course, another person who should need no introduction, but I will give him one anyway, and that, of course, is Askren from Exploding Dice. Askren, pleasure, sir. How are you? And yeah, tell the fine folks who somehow don't know you, if there are any, where you are and all that.
Well, you guys actually might not know me, because I think this is my first time actually being on Arv's channel, even though we've been friends for a long time.
True.
It's taken him this long to actually invite me.
True.
But
what a dick, man. I mean, come on, Arv.
I know.
No, it's all good.
And this is why. It's been a pleasure. So no, I'm just kidding.
See, I won't be here next month. No. Hi guys, my name is Astrin from, as he said, the Twitch channel Exploding Dice, where it's just another D&D channel on the internet where we do lots of role-playing stuff. And I am here to hang out with my good friends and talk about the Dungeon Master things and maybe answer some weirdly personal questions, because that's what I like to do.
I'm going to be asking
shows.
So you better be ready.
I have the answers ready.
I'm very excited, and I do have to say, Grant Ellis, thank you for the sub, Grant. I appreciate that. I know that you are one of Will's guys originally, but thank you so much, Grant. It is a pleasure. And you know what I like about that? He subs before he follows. That's the badass right there. You know you've got.
I know.
That is commitment. Thank you, Grant, who of course is also Dungeon Masters over on Encounter Roleplay. I do have to say, by the way, that there was a period of time where, for some reason, I think because it both started with E is the only way I can explain it, where I routinely mixed up Will and Askren's channel. So I'm like, oh yeah, it's Askren from Encounter Roleplay. It's Will on Exploding Dice. And I'm like, you know.
Yeah, I remember that.
Oh, Jesus. I'm glad that I finally figured out who's who. But it's a pleasure to have Askren on here. Askren was also doing a bunch of different cool campaigns, including one that I hope at some point he can restart, which was the Iron Gods campaign, because I just enjoyed like that whole setting and watching you play it. So anyway, I love that. So it was cool to see that, and I am glad to have him on my channel at long last. And finally, a person who we have collaborated once before, but this is the first time maybe, Dave, that you've been on this channel, I think. I've been over on yours, I think.
Yeah.
But it is, of course, Dave from the Digital DM, and I guarantee you guys that if you don't yet know Dave, if you're a DM at all, at some point you've gone to his website and used his DM stuff. Like everybody, there's so many people that use it, even if they don't know that Dave is the person who did it. So Dave's the person who did it.
I totally want to sleep with you right now, Arv. I don't care if you're a dude or not.
Dave, it's a pleasure. Why don't you tell the people who don't, for some reason, know you, who you are and all that.
Hey, everybody, I'm David. That's right, I'm the Digital Dungeon Master with my radio voice. Now, I've been on Twitch for about 4 years now. I've been partnered on Twitch for about 4 years. I've had a blast. Thank you guys for hanging out. And I do a lot of games, about 6 or 7 a week. Do a lot of videos on my YouTube channel. You can check that out. And we're here to talk about nothing but DMing.
That's what I'm talking about. I know, right? You just settle into it. It's going to be good times. Yeah. One quick funny story about Dave. The first time that I met Dave online, I actually almost got banned from his channel because I raided him, and he had just been raided, I think, by he like had a bunch of bots. So he came and he's like, "Oh, it's these bots," and then he starts banning them. I'm like, "Wait, what? This is some guy?" And then he's like, "Wait, maybe they're not a bot." And then
that happened one time. I was on Will's channel. We went to some random guy, and he literally just banned
everybody. I was like, it could have been a very bad start for Dave and I, but it worked out.
Well, they were spamming those big penises that take up the entire chat with all the @ symbols and stuff.
Yeah.
So I think, oh, here we go again. It's another cock party. So I was about to start hitting a ban hammer on everybody, but it's been good. We've known each other for probably a couple years now. Or
yes, so, I would say so. It is kind of funny how it's such a small community, and so many of us know so many DMs, within the community that do all this cool stuff. So, but it's really, I'm really excited, genuinely, because these guys are all friends and all excellent DMs, and I'm really looking forward to chatting with everyone about this. For people in chat, the way that we're going to do this is about 90 minutes. We're going to spend a little bit of time talking about our campaigns, and then we're going to talk about the subject of the day, which today is going to be about digital versus face-to-face tabletop gameplay.
Interesting.
And we might do, I don't know if we'll do a product review. I'm thinking we might. I'm going to see if Will can actually hold his product together without it breaking. There it is, the Mimic Chest. And then finally take a little Q&A from chat towards the end. So hopefully everyone will enjoy that. And so I guess what we should do is we'll go in the opposite direction, since we started with Will last time. Dave, I know you run 6 of these, so I know you get a lot of games going, but highlight your campaigns for us. Like give me what was the coolest thing that's happened in the last few weeks, let's say, in 1 or 2 of your campaigns that you want to highlight, say.
I've totally fallen in love with Starfinder, right? I think it's a perfect medium between a rule-heavy Pathfinder and a very rule-light 5e D&D. So I've totally fallen in love with this game, and we had our first Starship combat last week.
Badass.
And it was awesome. It went so smooth. We blew up a ship. So that's one highlight. And then another highlight that I have is I have all of the best players on Twitch, and I'll fight anybody on that.
No, you don't.
Have the awesomest players, man. I'm serious. I'm gifted. I have all of my games from, I'm running Yawning Portal. I'm running Tomb of Annihilation. I'm running Ghosts of Dragonspear Castle. I'm running Adventures League, and I've got the best players, and I appreciate it. And that's the other cool thing. I can't just pick one game out. I mean, I have to shout out all of them because I have fun equally in every game. So, but I did kill a character. I did have about 2 months back.
All right, tell the story.
Come on,
yeah, I have to.
Let's get into it. Dave.
What system, etc. Tell us when, and then tell us.
This time, Dave.
Yeah.
I'm getting hyped up. I'm fixing to go on a rant, and my viewers know that when I go on a rant, I go on a rant. So I am running an offline game. It's I've been commissioned to run a game for a group of guys, and I am not a DM versus players. I'm very laid back. I like to tell the story, and I'm not out to kill characters. Well, I had one of my players playing a barbarian. Just because he's got rage, he thinks he's never going to die. So he was talking shit the entire time, saying, "You don't have the balls to kill me." So what did I do?
What?
I killed him. I did. I just zerged him until he died. And the other players in the group, they know that they had that he had probably pissed me off a little bit, and said, "Oh, I didn't have the balls to do it," but I did. I killed his barbarian. Literally, a Yuan-Ti abomination just picked his corpse up and just ripped him in half, Mortal Kombat style, and just threw him on the ground. Fatality, I think it's called. That was it. So that was like the first time I ever killed a player just because they were running their mouth. But that was pretty awesome.
So wait,
and I'll do it again too.
What was his reaction to this? May I ask?
Presumably.
He said I didn't think you'd do it, but I did. And then he went AFK, and then he came back with a changed attitude, and he said, "You know what? I think I'm going to play a cleric for the party now." Because they didn't have a cleric and they didn't have any healing potions left.
He literally found religion. Yeah. You're like, I've turned to God now. So that's how that actually works.
So that was a pretty couple good memorable times in the last couple of weeks. But like I said, all my games are good though, man. I have fun for 4 hours every night playing D&D. Plus all the other 12 hours a day I'm working on this stuff. So
Jesus, I know these guys all put me
in the world, man.
It is. These guys all put me to shame though with the the amount of stuff. They're just like, well, during my 75 campaign, wait till we get to Will, and Will's just gonna be like, well, each hour that I play a new campaign, like Jesus.
I drink to forget.
Oh my God, dude. But that's cool. I'm glad that and I'm glad that you set the boundaries, Dave. You set the limits, and now they know that you'll kill people off if you have to. So.
You got to straighten them out sometimes.
You got to straighten them out.
Yeah. If you learn anything from this stream out there, players, player etiquette 101, don't talk shit to the dungeon master because they will fucking ruin you.
It's really true. It's really true. You just don't, you don't want to mess with that at all.
Can we say the F-bomb on here?
I mean, well, it's technically a family-friendly-ish show, but
we're not on the FCC here.
Yeah, like, okay. I mean, like, if...
I was never made aware of this.
Yeah, no, I mean, like, basically... Well, I said ish. Do
you not have a beep button ready to go?
Oh, yeah, right. No.
Are we on like a 10-second delay?
A 10-second... I know, it depends on what source material, right?
He's got a crew of editors and producers over there, so I mean...
that's true.
Who's in your control room right now? Get him on the phone.
Get him over there. Hey, listen. Well, let me. All right, so let me move over then to Ashrin. So tell me, same question. What is the highlight that has happened for you over the last few weeks in a or several adventures? Did you kill other people off recently? Also, did you what?
So yeah. So recent campaigns have been really interesting. Right now we're actually launching a whole bunch of new content. Let me take. I can't really hear myself very well. We're launching a whole bunch of new content. But I've had basically a few stable campaigns that I've been really enjoying, and also had one experience which I talked about a little bit in the pre-stream that actually might be more relevant to our topic later. But right now we have Writhing Moon, which is our open legend horror campaign, which has been going fucking fantastically. I have such an amazing cast of role players over there. That's on Saturdays, and so there's this thing that we set up in the beginning of that show, and it was that when this yellow mist showed up, and that this guy named the Tatterman was going to come and fuck everything up, and I just ruined the family friendly thing right there. Sorry. It's an instinct. But he's kind of like, because the first thing that happened in the campaign was the players all died to this. So they were going through this sort of dream realm, and we had a guest player, and just as this yellow mist starts busting through the windows, and they're like, oh, God damn, something is going to go down. This Tatterman's going to come. We have to fight for our lives. The guest player decided that was his moment to turn on the party and try and smash their lantern, which is the only way out of the dream realm. Oh. And basically what happened is the party got split, with half of them stuck in the dream realm and half of them stuck out of it. And the only way to physically reunite was to have this giant, horrible, eldritch creature physically like take them, rip them out of the realm, crush their bodies, and send them back. And it was just an amazing night. Great role playing all around, and it was I don't really have words to describe how much fun it was.
Wow.
I did have someone die though. It was a barbarian, and that was in my home game where I'm actually playing off stream after this, because he was sort of half vampire, and he had been hit with a feeble mind, so he went down to 1 intelligence. So he was basically like a feral animal that they were carrying around, and he, in the middle of the night, decided to attack one of the helpless people that they had to escort through the desert, and the party was like, nope, he has become a liability. And so as soon as they found that in the morning, the party fighter got his axe, and he said, I coup de grace him, and I chop off his head.
Wow.
And so he did. And right there, rip Harold the Barbarian, he died at level 9 in the middle of the desert, being killed by another player.
Level 9. That was so. And his reaction was like,
no, he fully accepted. He already had made a new character to play because he didn't want to play a feeble-minded barbarian. But
I mean, I kind of assumed that was redundant already, a feeble-minded barbarian. But okay,
yeah,
I mean, it's just like I won't be able to have my usual intellectual conversations at the edge of my bloody axe. Like,
I think that's a prerequisite to play that class,
right?
anyways.
Like, I don't even,
Well, it's when they get down, when they get completely nuked down to the point where they can't even speak language or understand language anymore.
Okay,
they are basically just a ball of raging animal fury that doesn't really have any place in the party. And so yeah, he got killed by another player.
Wow. So that's well, see,
and then promptly decomposed it and put his bones in the bag of holding.
Okay, as a memento, basically.
Well, just because they didn't want him to come back as undead.
Okay, right. Okay, it's clever.
You gotta make it.
Oh my God. Well, Will, I know this question is going to be hard for you. So, out of the 6 quadrillion campaigns you've had in the last couple of weeks, is there 1 or 2 things that you want to highlight that have stood out as, oh my God, this happened?
No.
Okay. Can you try?
I'm kidding. Yeah. Let me see. God, yeah. Yeah, I was thinking actually as we were Askren's campaign, Arriving Moon makes me think of my Call of Cthulhu campaign that I'm running at the moment, with a band of great players, and the whole death scenario makes me think of, well, I didn't kill anyone, but like driving people insane is perhaps even more fun.
It is.
Cthulhu than just straight up killing their character, because they get to play with the insanities, right? So, yeah, this week we had a fun exploration around an English castle in 1925, which is, of course, basically, includes all of the roles which I was born for. Like the English butler, nailed it.
Pre-nailed it, really.
Yeah, pre-nailed it. Before I even got there, I knew it was going to be great. Yeah. So just for the butler, really. But Call of Cthulhu for me, to move away from just Dungeons and Dragons itself, I suppose, is such a breath of fresh air. As you mentioned, we play so many campaigns, and playing in a kind of modern day, I guess, ish. 1920 wasn't that far away. Is quite refreshing, actually. And getting to play in a real life world where you can actually bring in characters from history has been particularly fun and interesting. And with Call of Cthulhu, you can go anywhere because it's just like fucking insane. Oh, oops. Damn insane. And we had these really cool scenes with these paintings. I got to bring in my my German villain in the wheelchair with psychic Cthulhu powers. It was a great time. So Call of Cthulhu has been amazing, and as Dave says as well, I've got some incredible players on that game who bring I don't know, you guys probably feel this as well with your campaigns. You got great casts as well. I feel like I can be a pretty good DM, and then players like elevate it when they are as good
Especially horror, right? Horror
Yeah.
is made so much better when you have players that just dive into it.
Yeah, that's it. And I feel like those guys keep, double downing on their investment into the campaign, which is so neat. And I'm really enjoying that Cthulhu campaign, man, because it's just like not D&D, like I'm like, as much as I love D&D, playing D&D.
I feel the same way with Starfinder.
Right? Yeah, I can.
It's a breath of fresh air, man,
Yeah.
and Savage Worlds as well. So nice.
It's interesting. I felt a little bit that way, even though it is still 5e rules, but I felt that way a lot with the Adventures Middle Earth campaign because the feel is they nailed the feel so beautifully of the Tolkien world, and they have these journey rules, corruption rules, shadow points, and things like that don't, to me, overcomplicate for the sake of it, but just add. It's a slower burn, and I mean, I love Tolkien, but it's a slower burn. But it means that when you get to these different points, like and I'll give an example since talking about highlights that Will was a part of, actually. In our campaign, the three of them ended up fighting this shadow creature. I don't want to say what it was yet because I don't want to spoil it for him. But it was this shadowy creature, and one of the characters early on, played by Trendane, who's a wonderful player, was basically woke up buried in mud. And it was because this shadowy creature had basically dragged him off and buried him in mud and then came back so that he could attack the remaining two characters, including Terry Toons, who's in Chat's character, and Will's. And it was really... I mean, you said it yourself, Will, that it was just super tense, right? Because it was this sort of, it wasn't like, I mean, how many times have we fought, if I said you're fighting the equivalent, like a wight, right? And you'd be like, okay, it's a wight, and it does this, and that's scary. But something about being in a separate universe gives you that feel that you don't, wait, but in Tolkien's world, don't wights destroy everything? Like, is this the Witch King of Angmar? Like, what is this? Is it a barrel wight? Yeah. Because those are badass. And so the feel of it really can alter things around for people who are so familiar with D&D, even though it's a similar rule system. So
yeah, we were talking about this after that game, actually, with Terry and Trendane and myself, and we were saying the whole pace of that game is so much like a Tolkien novel. It feels like I mean, not to give you too much of a reach around here, but like your own.
It's fine. Dave already told me he wanted to sleep with me, so I mean, we've already got it. It's after dark anyway.
Yeah, it's been about 20 minutes since Dave said that, so he should be good. But the narrative pace of that game is so like a Tolkien novel, and you're right. I mean, it's so different. It's such a breath of fresh air. Yes, you're playing D&D, but I never feel personally in that game like there's any kind of necessity for us to do any combat. Like we could play 3 hours and we could hang out, and there's a scene around a campfire, and then Arvin goes on to describe this beautiful countryside for a while, and then we sit around a campfire and have a conversation. And that is just something really nice to that as well. I mean, not necessarily you'd want to do that with every game. I feel like if I was doing that in every single game, you'd want some more tension, but it works perfectly for that campaign.
Yeah, Arv, you mentioned Iron Gods too, and I think that was a D&D 5th edition campaign, but it's the setting is Paizo Pathfinder is Paizo. I have a thing for a lot of their settings within the Golarion world, and Iron Gods is so interesting because it's so different than the traditional D&D fantasy setting, right? Like it's in the middle of a wasteland. Everyone is kind of like a rough and tumble, like Borderlands style scavenger or a bandit or a trader or something. And then you've got the complex layer of like the alien stuff and the technology stuff and the robots. And there are a few dungeons, but there's a lot of like underground spaceships to like buried spaceships and technology and stuff to explore. And it's D&D, right? The rules are there, but it feels different enough, and it feels so like, and there's a lot of mystery in there. Like you pick up a thing of technology and you're like, I don't know what this is. This doesn't look like a magic item or a monster that I'm familiar with. This is something weird from outer space. This could be anything, right? And I think that just kind of opens up the players' imaginations a lot, and kind of it's very refreshing.
Especially, and that's having that sort of connection of it first. Go ahead, Dave.
No, I was just going to say, I think the Iron Gods adventure path, I think that inspired Starfinder, if I'm not mistaken, from reading.
It definitely did. There's a lot of like the Endorphins and stuff that's front and center in Starfinder was written in that.
Yeah.
And you know, the interesting thing about that, and this is something that Dave is probably more likely to know off the top than you guys, because Dave's a little closer to my age, but Expedition of the Barrier Peaks was originally a module in which, you're familiar with it? Yeah, so it was originally this, you know, where basically what that module did beautifully was, and I think Iron Gods, from my sense of it, having watched some of the sessions you've played, Askren, is that it gives you the image of what it would be like for players to encounter these things with no context, right?
Yeah.
The player, or I should say the characters. The players have a context because they live in 17, but the characters have no context. So for them, they're like, what is this great steel beast that has this thing? Like, they don't, or not even steel, this great metallic beast of what, you know, what is this thing? These lights on a board look to them. They don't know what these are. They're flashing lights. What does that mean? That I think is extraordinarily well done, and it was just one module and it was kind of off by itself, but I imagine they had to be thinking a little bit about that when Iron Gods was written, and then later on Starfinder. So
you know how players sometimes, when they ask you like what a thing is or what it looks like or what it does, and you kind of explain it to them in universe, so they have to kind of do a little bit of figuring it out.
Right.
The reason I love the sci-fi stuff is because you can literally like explain stuff piece by piece, right? And it's like it's kind of like, imagine if you imagine explaining to someone who's never seen a computer before, like, what happens if you push this button on a keyboard? Like, you don't know. Who knows? It might do something, it might not. And then there's a lot of mystery there, and it kind of keeps the players
presents a new challenge for the players as well as the dungeon master, which is, you know, refreshing. And I feel like, you know, probably us lot here don't represent the average D&D player, because we play ridiculous.
No, probably not.
But you know, I mean, it's worth thinking about, I guess. You know, even if you played for the past 3 years the same D&D game, or the same group or whatever in the same setting, then you can just bring new aspects to your game for your players and yourself. And that's like half the battle. Half the time, it's just like being excited about the game. You know.
Oh yeah.
Your players excited about the game. You know,
it does make a huge difference. It's actually it's actually a good segue, I think, into the topic that we wanted to talk about here. And I want to bring up I want to give an anecdote and then have you guys comment on it, because all of us have played and are currently playing, I think. Will, are you also doing a face-to-face game at the moment, or are you just doing online?
I play a off-stream game, but it's in person. Yeah, I don't get any time. I'm in Montreal at the moment, away from my
right. I figured
group in the UK. Yeah.
Okay, I figured. But I know that both as Dave and Askren, as I said, play sort of off-stream and sort of face-to-face, a face-to-face game, and I do.
I actually don't. No,
you
my
don't.
Off-stream game, my off-stream game is on Roll20.
Oh, okay. Dave, do you?
Yeah.
But you do, right, or no?
I've been playing D&D since 1984, and I have never DM'd around the table. Only online.
Really? Oh, wow.
Interesting.
You heard it here first.
Wow.
Yeah.
See?
I feel like now I imagine you were in the same situation we were before Roll20 came out. It's, how do we play D&D online?
Well, all of my friends, they screwed up and got married and shit like that, so they lost their and we couldn't play anymore. So, and plus EverQuest came out, so we were excited. We didn't ever have to roll a dice again.
Right.
We could just swing our swords and, you know, have this arm just bashing on a creature with numbers flying all over the place. So we kind of lost touch with one another.
Well, you know, Dave, if you ever want to break the table together, you know where I am.
I'm going to Gen Con next year. I'll be running some games now.
Nice.
Looking forward to it, man. Actually,
my first Gen Con next year.
Nice.
Funny story, Gen Con I went to this year, and I was running games for Kobold Press, and that was my first time playing around a table since I was 15.
Oh my goodness.
Nice.
See,
but I'll tell you what.
That's like
Here's
13 years.
Starfinder stuff. That's all the Starfinder stuff. I do have a Starfinder game around the table starting up next year.
Oh,
is it anywhere near New York City?
It is not. Well,
then I don't know what to say.
So I don't know where. I'm either going to be moving to New Mexico or Ohio probably. So wherever I move, I'll be doing a Pathfinder game, Starfinder game. Sorry about that.
Okay.
And yeah, it's going to be awesome. I can't wait. My first game.
Oh, I'm excited.
Yeah.
That's super cool. I think it gives us a chance to talk a little bit about the differences here, because about the same time. I mean, I've been also started playing D&D around 1983, 1984, and I got the red box, and so for me, I did do all the stuff sort of around the table for a good period of time, I would say, mostly through high school and into college, and then that sort of fell away as everyone did stupid stuff and got married, as you said, and moved away. And for me, Twitch,
I'm told I'm the smartest one. I'm told all the time on the phone.
Is that what you're told? You're the smartest one?
Yeah.
I mean, well, the thing is, I actually, the game that I'm running right now that's face-to-face does involve my wife, so I can't go too far down the marriage as a problem. I mean, that we worked out. But, this Twitch and the advent of streaming, and that along with certainly Roll20 and Fantasy Grounds and things like that really revitalized for me this thing which has always been I think Dungeons & Dragons is the greatest game ever made, because I think it is the only game that provides the amount of the multiple number of different stories that people get as invested as they do, that is obviously a spectator sport. Try to get a bunch of people sitting around and watching a Go game with the same kind of fascination, and that's nothing against Go. It's just that there is the experience of playing it and watching it, and you can do that through the power of streaming online. But what I want to ask you guys is, so in the case of not having DM'd, you've at least played, though. Everyone has played at some point around the table, right? So
when I was like 13 years old. Yeah.
Right. So the question I want to ask is,
I got kicked out of high school for playing D&D.
Oh, good man. See, that's what I'm talking about. That's
I dropped out of college to play.
All right, well, there you go. So then the question I want to ask you guys is, what has sort of the online environment, what has it provided us in terms of being able to, move forward with us, with the hobby, with the games that we love, with the job that we love in some cases? What has it provided us, and are there drawbacks to it that the face-to-face environment provides, let's say, that the online doesn't provide? So I guess I just want to ask everyone, what do we think about the advent of the online DMing system that we have?
Honestly, I think it's a blessing.
Yeah.
Because, especially with the way technology is, I figured it was bound to happen. But if you told me back in 1984, when I first started playing, that, in 30 years, there would be, these virtual tabletops and you could play with anybody from around the world, I would have said you were full of crap. But, so there's pros. The pros are, you can just wake right up and jump online. You don't have to get dressed. You don't have to get a shower. You don't have to drive across town. I mean, seriously, you don't have to prepare a bunch of food for people. You can just sit down at your table, sit down at your desk, just wear a shirt like what I'm doing. I'm not wearing anything else but a shirt right now. So that's
assuming we do any of those things in face-to-face games, shower, pants.
Yeah, exactly. Now, the cons is you don't have that sense of camaraderie, with the banter. Although I will say there is still banter that goes around the table, but there's that bonding factor when you are actually around the table with your friends. That's the whole bonding part that you do get from a virtual tabletop, but then again, you don't get it. It's sort of like, you do and you don't.
I think it's still there. It's just a little like in person. It's always going to be faster. It's going to be more immediate. Yep. I like I said, after this, I'm playing a game that I've been playing with this same group for about 2 years now. Some of them about 3 years. And we're like, I would consider some of these guys some of my best friends, right? Like we know just about everything about each other. But that wasn't immediate, right? It wasn't like that's only after a certain amount of time that you actually develop that closeness. But it's still there. There's a lot of things that I think the digital thing has definitely added to the hobby as a whole that makes the hobby is better for it. And I've said this a few times on my talk show, but so you maybe except for Will because he's really young, but aside
7 years old.
Can we just make that as a tag? Except for Will, semicolon, who is very young. Like,
yes.
I'm impressed with that qualifier. 7 years old. I'm impressed.
Yeah. But so if we all remember our first games around a table playing when we were kids, when we were very young, and the games were kind of new or we were being taught them. what was the way that you played D&D, or you played any of these tabletop games? Is someone said, hey, do you want to come over and play? Or you got your group of friends together and they were your friends, but you didn't really get to choose who was around a table with you in the sense of the personalities of the gamers, right? You didn't get to choose who, like whether you got to play with people who were really into the role play or really into the combat, or whether they loved to act, or whether they just wanted to kill stuff and get loot and make big numbers. Yeah. But you didn't get to you didn't get to make those decisions about the kind of group you got to play with. You kind of just got whoever you got, and that's why you had it's a lot less common now to hear stories about, oh, there's Jimmy the power gamer in the game, and we don't really like the way he plays, but we put up with him because he's our friend. But
because he brings the snacks, right?
Yeah, exactly. He has the car. But on Roll20 and on with digital stuff now, like, you do get to do that. You get to choose exactly who you play with, which means that you can find exactly the type of group that will make your game so much more enjoyable for you, right? And if you're not enjoying it, you can walk away from the table and you can find one that is great for you, right? You get to have so much more of control of your experience, and I think that is largely a reason why the hobby has been able to explode, is because with that control of your own personal experience, people have been having better and better experiences with the hobby and with the community as a whole.
It's that's the effect of online, right? I mean, like, going back before there was internet, or like internet regularly everywhere. I mean, on Amazon, just look at something like Amazon nowadays, like your buying experience is so much more, accessible to anyone and customizable, I guess. You can search for whatever you want, you can look for whatever you want, and it's the same with D&D these days, which I think is great.
Thank you, Al Gore, for inventing the internet.
Right.
the series of tubes to pump D&D straight to us.
It was a long play.
Right into the vein. But I mean, shocker, I don't think it's a bad thing. It's anything that makes people play more. I think that's the same with, like, any amount of engagement can only be better. Whether it's like voting, maybe we should have, like, hey government, maybe we should, like, be able to vote online. So, like, it could be a good thing. More people can do it. Same with D&D. Like, maybe we should do this online. We can all do this now a lot easier. Well, yeah, of course that makes sense. For someone, as a filthy millennial as I am, having grown up with the internet, then it just makes sense. Of course we can play D&D online, and
Yeah, and Tall Squall in chat makes a good point also, that there is this, as he points out, there's this freedom of expression that you can do with online play, because there's a safety of being in your home, and their vulnerability is being removed from being face-to-face. And that's true. There's actually, there is sometimes the experience where if you have, and we've been there, right, where you've had guys around a table that have gotten upset with each other, or they've gotten upset with the DM, or they've gotten upset with the scenario because they're in a tense situation, or their character died, or their character is close to death, or whatever. And that's difficult when you are right in front of each other, and sort of looking at each other and kind of like, like staring each other across the table. Some of that is can be mitigated. Now, it doesn't take it away, but it can be mitigated if you don't have the sort of level of personal space problem that, people are in each other's space, that online play can provide. I do want to say, one thing I do want to say, though, in favor of the face-to-face experience, though, is that the other side of that is there's a reason that live theater is powerful in a way that I think watching TV at home isn't always. And that is that the in-person experience is pretty amazing. Like, I remember at Gen Con this past year, I ran for the Writers' Symposium an adventure that I wrote called Night at the Forbidden Library. And there were a bunch of writers that were there, and I actually had a couple of guys, including Brian Feister and Ryan Shaples from Open Legend, and they played along with me, and there were some others there too. And it was a studio audience, as it were. Like, there were people watching live. And I mean, we're all used to having a number of people watching these campaigns and weighing in as we do stuff on Twitch. But there is something to be said for some, incredible event happens, some funny event, some sad event or something. The live energy of being in the room when that happens is amazing. And I don't know that it's totally replicated in the Twitch experience, which is not in any way. I agree with everything you all have said. I agree with you entirely. But I do want to point that out about the energy of the live room. So
yeah, no, and don't mistake the fact that, like I said, I love and I'm so glad for what like Roll20 and the online space has done for D&D, and you know, when I talk for, I guess, all of us here, like our careers in general, you know. But there's also like, it's great and it's fantastic that it's opened up the hobby. But and like I said, the reason I said this might be applicable to our topic is because I was at Gen Con. I ran my first at a table game. Like I was a dungeon master at a table with strangers, people who had bought tickets to be there for the first time in like 15 years. And it was like, it's different. And there's just something like I can't do it on stream because I have a very limited space here, but I tell people all the time, if I could, I would love to stand up at my desk and be able to walk around and animate myself, because there's just something sort of inherently connecting when you can, like, you lean over to the table and you point at the map and you say, like, this is where the enemy is, and you kind of look at the player right in the face and you say, what do you want to do, right? Or you can walk around the table and actually have a conversation right up front with them. Like if you're intimidating, you can kind of lean in and get in their face, or you can just kind of shuffle off when they win a fight or something like that. Like and yeah, and like you said with the studio audience thing, like we're all streamers, so we're all essentially used to doing this for the audience. But this is, so my brother recently, a year or two ago, started doing stand-up comedy, and one of the things that I help him study for it a lot, and one of the things we learned was there's something sort of inherently powerful about being able to actually look and see the face of someone who is watching you, and whether they're enjoying it or not, like on their face right there, at a table and something. And it's a completely different energy, right? It's why
webcams I think are really important. I have a public speaking background, and I did a lot of international debate, and the experience of being I have not done anything in my life that was more important than public speaking, because of what it taught me about exactly that, right? About being able to look at the judge, about looking at the room, about looking at the group of people and knowing. I debated I was in the World Public Speaking Finals in front of 800 people in Cork, Ireland. And I'm going to name drop in Cork, Ireland. I was a masturbator. No, so they, but the point I wanted to make is that, I was standing there and watching people's reactions or not, right? Like it makes it easier to read the room. And so when I ask people to do stuff in D&D games, like D&Ds with viewers and stuff like that, now you can't always do this, and people are different about this. You've got to at least have a microphone, but I often find I like to have people with webcams, because I want both them and the spectators at home to be able to see their emotional reactions. I think it makes a big difference, and it kind of a little bit goes towards replicating that in-person experience, that we talked about. So
I think that's probably why I don't hate them, but I have a little bit more trouble connecting to podcasts, is because there's not, like, I can't see what's on the person's face when they're reacting to things.
Although a studio audience, like the Acquisitions Incorporated stuff, when they get in front of a live audience, man, that is legit. But that's because you're almost relying on the audience to sort of get a sense, they'll laugh about something and then they'll comment about it on stage. But that live energy really makes a difference. Although, Dave, I want to ask you, because I know that on a lot of your games, you don't necessarily you are always there, but you don't have a lot of webcams in those cases, and the people are doing. So what's your feeling about that? Like, how do you overcome that emotional, getting that connection with the players for people?
Well, a lot of the players, they want to keep their anonymity. And, the way that I run my games through Patreon, I don't force my players to get on webcam. Okay. And the majority of them don't want to be on webcam. So the perfect balance, or the perfect medium that I found, was to have the avatar that they would like their character to represent, and then the overlay would actually kind of highlight whenever they would speak. So, even though you're not physically seeing them talking, you cannot see their reactions. I can't even see their reactions on my end. So that is the one thing that I do miss from my games. But I also want to respect their wishes on keeping their anonymity. So, that's the reason why I have the overlay set up to where you see the character sheet with their avatar, and then whenever they speak, you can tell whoever's talking. So,
okay.
did used to run a lot of webcams, but as I did that, more and more people just wanted to keep their anonymity. So
I got you.
Why I've decided to convert to that.
I want to expose all my players as much as possible.
Oh yeah,
Right.
Yeah, I just want to throw this in there. My game that I'm going to right after this, my home game, we started on Skype and Roll20. We moved to Discord now because Skype is the worst thing ever.
Discord.
But I've never seen any of the players in person, right? I don't know what any of them look like. I've never seen it. It's literally always been a voice chat thing, and they know what I look like because they sometimes have watched my streams, and I know they have. But generally, like in large part, they don't care about my streaming life. And one of them actually was like, "Hey, are you going to be at PAX Unplugged? Because I'm going to be there, and we should totally hang out." And I'm like, "Okay." Okay.
Yeah, that is definitely a thing. By the way, also will be a PAX Unplugged because it's Philly, and I feel like New York people have to be able to get down to that. But no, I mean that's 100% true. And more, this is slightly off the topic for just a second. I don't know if you guys have had this experience, but it's been strange to me to have folks come up and introduce themselves now because I do a lot of conventions for writing stuff, and being there and having people come up and be like, "Hi," and I'm like, "Hey, Arv," and I'm like, "Hi," and they're like, "Oh, I'm Derp the Bugbear." I'm like, "Oh, hi," like because I have no idea until I know their Twitch name, you know.
So
like,
I was just at Gen Con and a bunch of people were coming up to me and they're like, "Hey, Askren, it's you," and I'm like, "It is." Hello.
It is me. Who are you that it is from?
And I tweeted people out. I'm like, if this happened, because everyone had their Twitch name on their badge. I'm like, if you come up to me, please don't feel bad if I look confused and then take a minute to look at your badge and realize who you are, because I don't know any of you by sight.
You don't know the voices. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, right, exactly.
No, not even. I know a lot of the people I work with. I know a lot of I don't know any of my community members by sight though, right? And so it's like, please introduce yourself. And the fact that people did, it's like it kind of blows my mind.
It makes a big difference.
We did a convention last year in the UK, and it's the strangest thing to me because I'm sitting there playing D&D, we're running some tables and whatnot, and I catch sight of a guy looking at me from and I'm like, "Can I help you?" You know, like I give him that look like, do we know each other? I have no idea who this guy is. And he like comes over a little bit and walks towards me and gives me another look. Like I'm like, "Hey."
That's how a lot of people act with bigger streamers at like TwitchCon. They're like, "I see that." Like I did that too. I was walking by the lunch table and Pro Jared was there, and I walked past and I stopped like, "Is that Jared?" And then I'm standing there for like a couple seconds. I'm like, "It is." And then should I go over? Should I say hi? Like, what is this?
It's funny. We're actually after today's show. I'm off to meet some people in the city to go drink with some viewers and that lot. So I'm gonna have that same kind of like, "Hey
there."
Yeah.
On the other side of things. Well, I mean, it's
we got off topic. Sorry.
No, that's not at all. Because I think one of the things that's interesting about that is that what we're talking about here is access to the game and access to the hobby, and there is something extraordinary about that. I did my flagship campaign, which is running again tomorrow night, which is with my Infinity and Beyond crew. That campaign is the last session that we did of that I was in Ottawa, Canada at a convention, so I was streaming from the hotel, so it had me there, right? Then it had Trendane, who's in California. It had Don Cairo, who's in Ohio. Then it's got Rob actually got in through his Apple Zoom app or something from Iceland. Then we've got Saad, who's contacting from Australia, and then Mike, who's coming from the UK. So here we have everyone is thousands of miles away, literally. Like everyone is completely, and we just smooth the silk, log in, start, and for 4 hours, we are essentially as close as we can be, though there isn't the same quite amount of live energy, but we are essentially in this room sharing it with these people. That is extraordinary and I think important because, I mean, I don't want to get hyperbolic about it, but this is the sort of thing, folks, that stops wars. It's when people are able to connect with each other in a way that doesn't separate us by national border or doesn't separate us by, we never talk to each other, we never see each other. This kind of thing is important. I believe firmly, like this kind of thing is important, what we do. Yes, it's a game, but it's a game that actually brings people together. And so that just blew my mind. I just kind of logged off after that session. I'm like, holy crap, like, what, did that just happen? Like, all this just happened and there was no problem and it all just worked, So that's crazy.
I've had a similar experience to Dave as well. Before I started streaming, we played a game where we didn't have webcams or anything like that. We're all from around the world, players from Sweden, players from England, players from America. And that was quite incredible for me because, you know, at the time I was fairly young and I was like, I have never met anyone from outside of England before. And then we just all started playing. I'm like, holy moly, you know, this is happening. So yeah, it's a great thing. But I mean, to play a little bit of a devil's advocate here, you know, I'm not sure how much it matters, you know, like, because it's a thing now. You know, like it exists. You know, like
that's kind of why it never really hit me, because when I was on Roll20, it's like people were, you know, oh, I'm in Denmark. It's like, I don't, okay, it's like fine. Cool. But it doesn't change anything for me as long as you can show up on time. Cool.
Yeah. So I mean, it's a valuable conversation to have, I think, but at the same time, I'm thinking like, you know, well, Roll20 exists. You know, people are going to use it. People are going to play in person. They'll experience themselves what they like and what they don't like, and that's the great thing about it. But, you know, it's always going to be there from now on. You know, it will only go further.
Right. It will only go further.
Everybody needs a token Dane. I mean, come on. You
know? We need some Scandinavian to join in on these things. Well, I don't want to get too far into the version wars here, but especially because I wanted to get to the product review and then talk a little bit about the Q&A if we can in a bit. But before I do that, I do want to mention quickly, I have up on the middle of our little window there the two most prominent, although they're not the only ones, but the two most
But there's only one that's the best.
I know. See, now I want to point out. Now, see, Dave should be happy because we have at least three of us are fairly. Although I know Will does some stuff with Fantasy Grounds, but the three of us are pretty big Roll20 aficionados. But I know, Dave, you're a Fantasy Grounds convert, so I'm going to give everyone their time to talk about why theirs is clearly the most awesome. So, Dave, tell me why Fantasy Grounds is clearly the most awesome, and not just because you work for them, but because they
First off, I will say this: I did use Roll20 for a couple of years, and I do like Roll20, and for what they've been able to accomplish within a browser, within that confines of a browser, is pretty amazing. But since I've converted to Fantasy Grounds, it has taken my gaming experience to a whole new level, because even though, you know, Roll20 does make your life pretty easy as a DM, but Fantasy Grounds, it spoils you, man. It calculates everything. You know, you don't even have to have your players type anything on their character sheets. Literally, you know, when you level a character, you just drag and drop that class on there to add all of the skills and all of the different class features that you're going to get. Drag and drop your spells, drag and drop the attacks, the saving throws. The system takes it, you know, into consideration all of your, you know, if you're successful in your save, you take no damage, or you take half damage. If you fail, you take full damage. You don't have to do anything.
It plays the game for you. Yeah. You don't even have to play. It just sits there and does everything. Yes. It's a big red light.
They actually have a new gaming seat coming out that literally wipes your butt for you in 2018.
Outstanding.
It's got a suction at the bottom.
It's in beta right now, guys.
In beta, yeah. Oh, man. You do not want to be in the testing group for that, by the way.
Partnered with awesome. What the fuck is that company that makes the chairs?
Lazy Boy.
Oh, with DX Gamer or whatever.
But it is. I mean, there's a lot of good virtual tabletops out there. I've really checked them all out, but I prefer Fantasy Grounds. I mean, it's not because I do stuff for Fantasy Grounds. I mean, it's just before I was approached, I was still 100% Fantasy Grounds. And like I said, I used Roll20, but Fantasy Grounds does everything that, unfortunately, Roll20 can't do. Not to say that, you know, Roll20 won't have that capability down the line, but the future is the limit for Fantasy Grounds, especially when the new Unity version comes out and you're going to have animated maps. You want to turn on rain on your map, turn on rain. If you want to turn on snow or fog or whatever. So that's going to change the virtual tabletop gaming industry when that comes out.
That's a good spirit of defense. I have put up on the overlay what I think is the next wave of gaming. So I think that should be fun. That should be fun.
The thing that Roll20 has is it has a free price tag on it. However, so does Fantasy Grounds. If you have a DM like myself or anybody else that has an Ultimate license, you as a player don't have to spend a dime. You can just download the demo version and you can play for free. So a lot of people, there's a huge misconception out there that, oh, Fantasy Grounds costs money. The sky's falling and it's turning green. But all you have to do is download the demo, get on the Fantasy Grounds boards and find you a game that has an Ultimate license, and you'll be okay. There you go.
That's true. And in roll
I'm
20
dropping the mic.
in roll 20 to get what you really need in roll 20. I mean, I have a premium account. You do, I think, need to have that to be able to provide those things. So it is free and technically, but to get what Fantasy Grounds give, you have to pay.
Players
anyway,
don't need a pro account.
No, that's true. I'm talking about the DM.
Yeah,
I'm talking about the DM. Yeah. I do want to just quickly stop and say thank you, Dragon Spear, for the resub. I appreciate it, man, and thank you guys for the follows so far. But yeah, that's a spirited defense that I fully accept. And for a counterpoint, I'm going to go over to Askren, who's going to explain why you're wrong and why Roll20 is clearly the greatest of all.
Okay, so debate club here. So do you my last?
I respect Roll20.
I don't.
No. So I don't feel any essential brand loyalty to Roll20 in the sense that like the reason I use it is because it's the easiest and it's because it's the fastest. And also. I don't know how Fantasy Grounds does maps because the last time I used Fantasy Grounds, right, was way back in like this was before Roll20 even existed. Probably around Fantasy Grounds 1, maybe even when Fantasy Grounds 2 was just coming out. And this was back when we were all fighting to try and find a way to play D&D online. And we're like, oh, but there's this program, Fantasy Grounds. It costs money, but here you can have a pirate link, and then 4 people have to install it, and then you have to all get it installed, and then all play together. And it never worked. No one ever knew how to do it.
Yep.
And so, and then they
that's
hadn't
what happens when you try the cracked version. That's what happened.
It was horrible. And so. They never really sold me on using it after that, especially with how easy Roll20 was. Like when I need to do Roll20, and here's the thing also, the way I do my games, when I do use maps, I kind of, my overlays are set up specifically for the Roll20 virtual tabletop. I don't know if Fantasy Grounds has an analog to that. With the dynamic lighting and all the I can just throw it right on screen. If it does, sure, great. But I also think there might be all the stuff you said about what Fantasy Grounds does with the calculating and stuff. I basically used to use Hero Lab to do that in Pathfinder because I am horrible at math. But there's something to be said about making the players kind of do their own math and system learning. I think. But either way, I mean, I have a license to Fantasy Grounds that I've never used. I probably could use it if it fit the way I did things. And I had the time to actually teach myself it. But I don't know, Roll20 is just so easy. And it's one of those things where it's like you become proficient enough in the same program that it just becomes instantaneous.
Yeah. That's sort of similar to how I am with Roll20. Sorry, Dave, go ahead.
Yeah. Oh, I was just going to say, a lot of people get intimidated when they see Fantasy Grounds, and there is a slightly different learning curve compared to Roll20. But once you use it a couple times, all that intimidation goes away, and everything makes sense. And that was a huge thing for me because I was so into Roll20. And I just didn't want that change. And then I saw all these gadgets and buttons, and I'm like, oh man, I didn't know. And then I started using it more and more, and I'm like, wow, this makes it easy. And then it goes back onto Askren, it will spoil you. And when you talk about, you want your players to know what bonuses to add, what proficiency do I add? What, proficiency, am I skilled in this check or whatever? And so, yeah, it will spoil you, but it is nice. And it, especially as a DM, it really makes your life so much easier because you don't have
hashtag sponsored by Fantasy Grounds.
No.
Secretly hashtag ad at the end of the tweet next time.
But
Dave makes a good point there because I have been a Roll20 user hardcore, every day, ridiculous hours for past 2 or 3 years or so.
I have 10,000 hours in Roll20, so believe me.
And recently I was given this ultimate license to Fantasy Grounds because they're the sponsor for the show that I'm DMing, Save or Dice, going up in November, right? And so I'm thinking okay, I've got to learn this thing, but actually something that I found quite useful is they've recently set up this Fantasy Grounds, I don't know if they call it a college or a school, but it's a group of people on Discord who are teaching people how to use Fantasy Grounds really quickly. I jumped in Discord and it has been mind-blowing to me. And people who follow me use Roll20 all day, every day. I jump in a Discord, I learn it in half an hour, 30 minutes, maybe an hour or two, play around with it. It's actually been quite fun. If nothing more is to do something different in Roll20, you know, I find myself getting bored very quickly doing the same things over and over and over. So I like to try and do something a little bit different. So yeah, I jumped on Fantasy Grounds. I've been enjoying it. You know, like I won't say that it's been the most intuitive experience ever. Like I needed to join a Discord for me to be able to, in order to learn it. But that being said, like I don't have any time. You know, like I find myself an hour to be able to sit down and do something, you know, once every week or so, where I get some free time which I can set aside to do something. So, you know, I feel like if I was just going into it, I could probably learn Fantasy Grounds fairly swiftly. But, you know, if I'm an average user, I still think I root for Roll20. You know, you know, if I'm recommending this to someone on Twitch or whatever, I'm just like, just sign up for Roll20 and, you know, watch any one of the million videos online. It will probably get you playing quickly. And that's the main thing for me usually. You know, just on Encounter Roleplay, half the time is like, how do I play D&D? It's like, well, just figure out Roll20 real quick, you know, because it's fairly intuitive. So, but I won't deny that the fact that Fantasy Grounds definitely has a lot more features than Roll20 does. And, you know, I'll be fucked if I'm paying for Roll20.
Just want to throw this out there because I have had a couple of them contacting me. Have you guys been eyeing any of the smaller time? I know, Will, you did one with a company a long time ago. There's a couple smaller time virtual tabletops that are trying to compete or trying to get a leg into the market.
I actually did a thing with one a couple of months ago called Power Virtual Tabletop. And yeah, that was interesting for me. You know, they're a new company. It's pretty much a dev, you know, one guy who's doing the coding and the writing for it, you know, and also the promotion for it. Great guy named Thomas Lackerman. And that was interesting to me. The price point is $2 a month or something. It's got all the features that I'd want from a basic compendium. It seemed like a pretty good competitor, actually. Intuitive, was easy for me. The question always was whether or not it will be, you know, any better than Roll20, because if you're going for basic comprehension, Roll20 is the go-to. Power Virtual Tabletop, you know, I was sponsored. I'm no longer sponsored, so it was pretty easily able to learn.
Yeah, only because the guy was talking with me about it, and I downloaded it to play around with it. I just hadn't actually taken any time to like set anything up in it. So I wanted to, like, I know there's that, and there's a couple other people that are trying to get their foot in there. And I'm essentially saying, like, what do you guys think about, like, do you think that this, that the hobby is going to thrive with more virtual tabletop options? I mean, there's at least a couple video game developers are trying to go full 3D with it too. If you guys haven't done it yet, I know Divinity 2 has a Dungeon Master mode that they're trying to push features for and add more to.
Yeah, like Pat mentions in chat, the Power VTT, which I've heard about as well. The one thing I want to say about that is, in general terms, I don't see how any of this extra competition can hurt, especially if it pushes other people to create other features and sort of usability. It strikes me that in a way, Roll20 and Fantasy Grounds are occupying somewhat different spaces a little bit, in that Roll20 is very much a pick up and play. Fantasy Grounds, although can be more, you know, Dave is suggesting the learning curve is different, but certainly not impossible. But it's the kind of thing that when you ramp up, I can imagine a number of people working out of Roll20 into Fantasy Grounds, and then it can be useful on sort of multiple different levels. So the reason I bring that up is it's going to be hard. I thought of it when you said it, Will. When you have something that's going to directly compete with Roll20, is it possible that someone will come along and blow us away? Yes. But it's awfully late in the game, it seems to me. And we've even seen that with WotC trying to enter the digital space, as we were talking about off air.
Just about to go there,
It's going to be awfully difficult at this point for them to jump in on the same plane, the same axis. And again, Fantasy Grounds, I think, is different because it's not really, obviously it's both D&D things, both role-playing, but there's different aspects to it. It has more features. So I can see different kinds of users being interested in different programs. I'm not sure if the person who just wants to pick up and play and looks around and sees an enormous community, incredible integration with wizards and all that with Roll20 or Fantasy Grounds, whichever, that they're going to go, I need this other tabletop, which is doing essentially the exact same thing Roll20 is doing, or Fantasy Grounds.
Yeah. You're right. And as you mentioned, these new integrations that we're seeing at D&D Beyond, We were talking before about D&D Beyond. Everyone knows my opinion on that one.
Yeah.
Or the new D&D e-reader. Whilst I don't think they're great products.
Started on that.
Yeah, I don't think they're great products, and I don't think they're good integrations. But that being said, people are like, why should we have D&D Beyond and an e-reader and another thing that's coming out next year and another thing? Well, all I'm saying is, imagine a world that we're only stuck with D&D Beyond, or only stuck with Roll20.
Right.
For me, I don't care if they're like a little bit bad. I'd like to get some variety and to get something else.
So I don't want to dwell on this subject too long because we got a couple more minutes in the show, but I did want to touch on this because Judo just said it real quickly, and he says, about Roll20 starting a partnership with the DMs Guild and stuff. I've been talking to a lot of companies and Roll20 about the future of selling modules and selling content via these virtual tabletops, because I think that is probably going to be the future of delivering content directly to DMs and players. It's just they need to find the best way to actually do it.
Right. Yeah. I agree.
Yeah. Fantasy Grounds is on Steam, on DM's Guild, and all kind of stuff. So they've kind of diversed themselves instead of just relying on the fantasygrounds.com website. So
Yeah, no, I think that's
it's good to see them, reach to a larger audience. And I really think Steam has probably really helped out Fantasy Grounds. So.
No, I think you're probably right about that. And generally, I do think more will be better in this case, as Will says. I think there's more competition there in general. But yes, let's
competition is good. It makes companies thrive.
Capitalism, oh god.
D&D socialism. That's what we want.
Let's get on to quickly to because we have about closing in about 10 minutes left. So I'm going to give now. Normally, what we wanted to do in this section was to do a product review, and this will be very quick because Will is going to try again.
Seconds.
Will's going to try again to show us. Yeah. So explain what this is, Will. What is this thing?
Not sponsored to say this, but they did send me a Mimic chest for free. They're on Kickstarter at the moment. They're polymorph crafts. You can check out the Mimic chest. This thing has all got magnets. Yeah, this is a magnet. This is a magnet. It all comes apart. It will break if I do it because I'm terrible at it. I did a review on YouTube of it if you're really interested. This thing unbuckles. You make dice towers out of it. It's got dice holders. You've got cup holders. You've got a rolling tray. You've got you got fucking everything in this thing. This thing really does go out of the mark.
Look at all the people in chat waiting for you to break it. Is it going to happen? Is it going to happen?
Go for it.
Is it going to happen?
Unbuckle.
Is it going to happen?
It breaks and it makes such a loud noise, and epicals that need to help me.
Oh god!
Yeah, there's mine. It's not a chest.
Very good.
It's not a mimic chest. It took me so long. Honestly, I felt incredibly stupid because I'm like, what makes it a mimic? I literally thought you were going to show me like an image of a mimic. Like the inside just open it up.
There's no teeth.
There's no teeth, and So here we go. So there's the chest. Wait for it.
So this thing. Okay.
I like the bondage harness strap. That's a really good feature.
That's my favorite feature of it.
Okay, now we open it up. Watch.
And then you can open this.
Wait for it.
I mean, it's meant to come out. Like this is meant to happen. This is all
outstanding.
Will, did you get the optional ball gag with that thing?
I mean, back that
inside. You pull it out,
people.
In the hidden compartment on the bottom of the chest, right?
They get a fucking holder like that, it all magnetizes. Some good shit.
It's meant to come apart.
This comes apart. You can use this.
What I like is that people who didn't even see. You don't understand. You don't understand. People who didn't even see you do this the first time. Apparently, you've done this multiple times. Like I imagine you're going to go to your friends in Montreal and you're going to walk in and they're going to be like, "Can you show us the mimic chest?" Like I think everybody knows now, Will, that you've been practicing.
I mean, it's funny. The account I've been tweeting about how I got a high CR mimic chest or whatever. This one's been particularly difficult. You gotta look after it and care for it. And I've been a bad owner, so my mimic chest has probably been why.
It's good stuff. All right, well, let's get on to the Q&A here, guys, while we have a few minutes left. So what we'll do is chat. If you have some questions that you want any of the four of us or all of us to talk about, what you should do, please, is put in chat in all caps question and then colon and then whatever the question is. Okay, so we can pick them up. We'll try to get to. We'll only have time for a couple, but we'll try to get like one or two questions.
We'll answer them fast.
We'll we'll answer them fast. So this is the lightning round. So give me the question. So lay them on us, chat. And for those of you who just entered, by the way, you're watching episode 1 of Masters of the Dungeon. This will be happening once a month, and it includes myself, Will from Encounter Roleplay, Askren from Exploding Dice, and Dave from the Digital DM. And welcome in, everybody. So let me see those questions. What do you got? Got questions about adventures, about modules, about players, about whether Askren will survive the rest of the show.
No.
Have another one.
Sorry, I was laughing at the fact that Will had to spell the word question in chat.
Yeah, exactly.
It's important. Trust me, I've dealt with Twitch chat a long time.
Question, Arv, give me your hat. I'll answer that one. No. Lily Bloom Gaming, next one. Out of all characters you've ever played, which one was your favorite and why?
Oh,
I got one right off the bat that I'll throw out quickly, and it comes because it was in college, and I was part of this D&D session with a group of people that were not good people. I was brought in by the DM who had lost control of this group, and he's like, I don't know what to do. Please help. So I came in, and I was playing a high-level gnome illusionist. When I say high-level, all of these people were level 24. For those of you who are wondering, this should not exist, okay? Like, this should not be possible that D&D 3rd edition, which is what it was at the time, gets you to level 24. These were like the classic Monty Hall slaying castles with swords type of thing, right? So I played this guy, and I could see why. They didn't listen to DM. They didn't do any of this. They were aggressive to each other. It sucked. So I had set up this thing in advance where I had said, can I set up something where my illusionist can piss them off so much that they will attempt to attack me? And he's like, sure, I don't see why not. I'm like, outstanding. So I had them in the middle of this empty field. I had my guy essentially taunt them multiple times. And this is after they had like killed babies and destroyed puppies. I mean, these are just bad guys, okay? Like in game and out of game, pretty much. And so they decided they were going to come and kill me. But I had worked out with the DM ahead of time that as a high level, 24th level gnome illusionist, on the event of my unconsciousness, an illusion would be triggered that essentially would bring down the wrath of Valhalla or something similar to them. And they saw this, and they're like, this illusion comes on them. They begin to run away from what they think are the onrushing hordes of death over a conveniently concealed cliff edge that I had prepared ahead of time with this illusion. So it was very much the feeling of walking out of the room in slow-mo with the virtual match lighting the room on fire as I walk out, as they're like, why the hell? And I swear to God, this is true. The door closed behind me, and all you heard was, no, you son of a bitch, hand of his and that was it. And that was the end of the game, by the way. He never played a game with them again or a session with them again. And that character was my favorite, even though I don't remember his name, and even though I only played it one session. But it was worth it to take them down with a virtual destruction. That's my story. What did you guys got?
My character is not nearly, he's not nearly done anything so epic. I just love playing him because I bring him into every campaign if I have the chance. And every group reacts to him differently. And he is Bruiser Quink, the 9th level Archmage, wielder of the Staff of Daraxus, one who has seen the Obrex Crus. He has like 20 titles that he just rattles off every time he says his name.
Nice.
And he's
Churchill.
Just,
good job.
Yeah, he's absolutely never insane.
Have so many.
As an Englishman, I am offended.
I just love it because he's absolutely insane, and every time the players meet him, he's always doing something that makes no sense to them. Like one time he was literally teaching, like he had desks set up in his study, like school desks, and he had a board where he was, this isn't a fantasy campaign, where he was like basically unlocking the secrets of growing plants hydroponically. And he told the players this. And then the next time they came back, the seats had all been filled with potted plants that he was giving a lecture to. And they just didn't understand why. And then the next time they went into his house, it was just a complete jungle in there. Like the whole place was just a complete, like, untrespassable jungle. It was, I love that character because no one knows anything about him. They just know that every time they meet him.
Like I like the air of mystery. Dave, what about you? Lay a great player on a character.
I have a young dirtbag kid named RC that likes to make an appearance every once in a while. And whenever I break out RC, he kind of talks like this, you know, and he's a real smart ass. And there was one guy, he was named Big Dirt the Daring, and I didn't like him. He killed my dog Snots. And so I started calling him Big Squirt the Scary. So, as you know, when I start breaking out RC, everybody loves it. And they know that there's going to be some douchebaggery happening. So, yeah.
That's
and then
funny.
I also have Banderas, which is a like a ladies' man. Stay thirsty, my friends, and he likes to hang out in the taverns and stuff like that.
Nice. He's the most interesting player in the world. Character. In the world.
Exactly.
Oh,
That's
nice.
who he's based off of. Yeah.
Nice,
Yeah.
dude. I like it. I like it.
I-
Will, what about you?
I relate to that. Yeah, I play a character called Finn Bard, who is the most beautiful man in the universe. Who is
So he's you IRL, right? Like,
yes,
okay.
it's just playing myself really. So
Right. That's all. So the answer to Will's question is my favorite character is me. It's basically that.
I also enjoy playing Warwick Davis.
Yeah, there you go. That's right. And Liam Neeson, as we know from our campaign.
That's right, Lauren. Yeah.
Okay, so one of the two. Let's see, two more quick ones if we can. Cookie Canuck, what's the best way to get into a streaming campaign? What's the best
Be
way?
a streamer.
Be a streamer.
Yeah.
Yes.
There are
for someone to invite you.
there are lots of people that run community games, one shots, and will take anyone. If you like Mouse Guard, my good friend Four, who DMs Mouse Guard on my channel, has open invites for his West Marches Mouse Guard game. I know
Yep.
lots of people. Speedy does one shots.
I do
you know,
too. I do a D&D with viewers once
Yeah.
every other month. I just did one like a week ago or so.
He does. I does. Everyone does.
Yeah.
Yep. So there's
So
different ways to do it.
be a part of find a community that you really like, and then ask if they have a community thing, or if they have a Discord, ask if there's any games going on there. You really just got to ask around. Someone will be able to point you somewhere. It's important though to ask, why do you want to be on a streaming campaign specifically?
Yeah.
Are you an entertainer, or are you trying to be one? In which case, I don't think getting on someone else's stream as a player is going to really launch a career.
Agreed. If the idea is to be able to build a part of your community and be a part of a community and have fun playing games, and maybe, overall build your interest in this community, I mean, that's possible. But yeah, not as sort of a, if I do this, then,
I will be a streamer too.
I will be a
No,
streamer
it's not.
too.
That's not how it works.
Exactly.
Well,
So
There's
go
a lot of
ahead,
work
Dave.
goes into it.
Yeah,
No, I was just
exactly.
going to say, be prepared if you want to get into something like this. There is
Yeah.
a lot of work, and I've had
You
a
don't
lot
get
of
to sleep.
people say, "Oh, Dave, you've inspired me so much," and then 2 weeks later, I tell them, do you have any advice, David? I'm like, yes, be ready for a lot of sleepless nights, and
Yeah.
be ready for a roller coaster ride.
I mean, look at
Yeah.
what's happened to us.
Yeah.
Like, look
Yeah.
at this
Yeah.
cast right now. I mean,
Look at
We're
us, chat.
haggard.
Look at what has happened.
3 weeks later, I'll get that reply back and say, "Dude, I don't know how you do it, but I can't do this. There's not enough
Who
time."
does this?
I believe in Will said that recently. He was like, you were like a bunch, like none of the people that we started with are still here anymore.
Yeah,
And
it's
it's so true. I mean, I started with 10, 15 people around me. People that I met from the start, like Askren's there, Myth's still going. There's
a few people, but
like five, 6 people or something like that. From the people that I started with, it's a heavy churn rate on Twitch. Like you make it or you don't, and 90% of people don't. But the best way to get in the stream game is probably to be a streamer. So
To do
if you
your
want to be
stream.
a streamer, then stream.
then stream.
Yeah.
When I first started streaming, there was myself, there was Thursday nights, and there was a Grant.
Thursday nights, man.
Are they even
Rob's-
around anymore?
I don't think so.
I
Rob's
don't
Game
think so.
Room. And then there was.
I
one
just
of
know
the
that
past-
everyone
was
everyone
it.
in the
We're all
universe
on.
has used that name, right? Something and then nights. Like that every weekday has
Nights
been
with a
used.
K. It's Nights with a K, Askren. It's Nights with a K.
Yeah, I know.
Totally
They had that
different.
Podcast. It's one of the first podcasts I ever listened to. Was Thursday nights, and then I had a really cool, really cool moment where they followed me on Twitch, and I'm like 13-year-old me listened to these guys, and now I just remembered who they are. It was a cool moment. But yeah, I mean, it's true. I mean, people don't stick around on Twitch. I mean,
There's nobody
left.
left.
Good friends who are streaming really well.
And they come and go, Will.
They come and go.
They come and go.
Yeah.
They come and
They
go.
do.
That's the one thing that I've learned over the last
Yeah.
4.5 years. People come and go, and it's unfortunate because I've met a hell of a lot of nice people in here, but
Mhm.
they right off into the sunset.
It's
Yeah.
true. I think balance is a big part of that, and being able
Yeah.
to make sure that you keep the same thing as sort of streaming advice in general, that you can kind of keep, work-life balance, that you can keep balance with how you do this stuff. For us, it's difficult because a lot of times it's also like herding cats, like scheduling. Oh my God. Like scheduling is such a nightmare.
trigger. It's a trigger.
It is
Yeah,
such a nightmare.
no.
And yet,
Hey,
I mean,
so you're free on Monday mornings and Thursday
Right.
afternoons and Sunday Friday nights, and I run games on Monday and Wednesday and Thursday and Friday and Saturday. Like,
Right, like
when do we get together? I don't know.
Yeah.
Let's try and make like
It's like
crazy.
somebody just asked in chat. Someone said, "Well, who would DM if all four of you were going to play in a game? Who was going to DM?" I mean, we would probably rotate. Number one, that's what I would probably.
we'd probably
Right.
be all like, not me.
Yeah, exactly. I'd be like, please. No, right? And I mean, and so, but I should say that one of the things that really helps is as you get the group together of people that you can do online, Discord has made this definitely helpful as well. When you give yourself enough time to be able to say, okay, in the next 8 weeks, let's let people know about when they can do X, Y, and Z, that helps rather than just trying to throw something together at the last minute of the same group of people. But I have been playing this campaign, my flagship campaign, for 2.5 years now, with basically only one or two changes. Basically, everyone else is more or less the same group. So it is possible, but it is definitely not easy. And
I'd say it's the outlier, not the norm.
definitely not the norm.
Yeah.
And speaking of scheduling, gentlemen, I don't want to cut us off too quickly, but it is actually
5 minutes if you want, or if you want to.
Let's take one more quick question.
all right. We'll take
Yeah,
all right.
no.
Then we'll do that.
I'm not gonna run
Those
it.
are awesome.
Pat will DM for us. Nice. Okay. So there was
Yeah.
one that I wanted to see, which I really like this question. When starting a new campaign, how much do you work with the players to connect them to each other before the first session? Basically, do you make them a party before you actually play a game? This is an excellent
I
question.
blind date all of my players.
Right. If you're Will, you just sort of wait for people to be drawn to his sex iconness. No, one thing that I'll say is, and it largely depends on the campaign, but the thing for the Adventures of Middle-earth campaign that I was able to do was right off the top, I asked the question of, okay, so on a 1 to 10 level, where 1 is, I can't believe I ever had to read that guy in high school, and 10 is, which one of my Valar tattoos would you like me to show you? What is your opinion of J.R.R. Tolkien? Because I didn't want people that weren't fans. I wanted people who were fans of Tolkien in the campaign because I knew that it was going to make a difference in terms of their players, in terms of how they managed to handle it. And I knew that I didn't need a lot of players. I knew that I needed like 3 or 4. And
what if I tell you the Silmarillion is the best book ever written?
see, that's what I'm saying. That's what I'm see. That's why Dave is good people. See, but so I said that, and that made a huge difference because it meant everyone coming in were Tolkien fans from the beginning, and so automatically they were like, well, we do or don't know each other, but we know the Tolkien rules, right? And like that was that particular campaign, but that was an axis that everyone could agree with. So
Similar.
Tolkien
Sorry, go
classes
ahead.
in college. I took Tolkien classes in college. Yes, I did.
Similar to
good man.
Similar to that, when I started Writhing Moon, it was entirely homebrew, so there was no like, are you familiar with this? But one of the reasons it's worked so well is not because I don't generally, I like bringing the players together in the first session. I don't like bringing them together before the thing, just because I think there's a little bit of character building and interesting development that can happen there. Though it does depend on the campaign. What I do think is absolutely necessary is you need to make sure your players are versed in the world. Make sure they understand it, and they have found specifically, they don't need to understand all of it. They need to find a particular corner of it that they can latch onto and learn a ton about, because that's what they're going to bring the campaign. That's what they're going to make a character to fit. And that's how they can make a character that just easily slips in and, fits like a puzzle piece into this world. And then you can build from there. And so I absolutely work with my players beforehand to make sure they understand the world, to answer questions about it, and to help craft a character that fits into it naturally and in an interesting way.
Before Will and Dave answer, one quick note I want to add to this. Do not push it if you think, like, if you have someone that you think this person would be great at this, and then you get a bad vibe as you're asking them, don't push them to do it anyway. It's not going to work out. If they're not enthusiastic about wanting to get involved, it is not worth your thinking to yourself. And I speak from personal experience, having done this before, where I was like, but you'd be so good. And they're like, okay. And they reluctantly don't do that. At this point, there are enough people who really do want to play D&D that you can find those people that will fit without having, in my opinion, without having to kind of pull them over the finish line, to get them to it, because that kind of player just is not going to last in my view. So, but Will, Dave, you guys have go ahead and jump in.
Real quick, echoing what Asker said already, I feel like a lot of DM advice is very similar. We all end up churning out the same stuff. yeah, make sure they're versed in the world. Yeah, make sure that they are familiar with who each other are. And of course, there's that, that whole, let's do a session 0. Let's set expectations. You guys have probably heard this a lot if you watch a lot of D&D shows by this point. But yeah, I want to echo what Askren said already, and what Greg just said there. And to pick up quickly on Pat's point, what about players that are going live for the first time? Are they playing the same way, affected by the live stream? There's always beginner nerves. I mean, whether or not you're playing on a live stream for the first time, we're playing together for the first time, I find that kind of vibes itself out after a while when you get familiar with the people that you're either playing for an audience to or playing just around the table with, no matter who the audience is. So yeah, there's always going to be weird first session-ness.
Yeah.
But that's natural and normal. You guys all the time.
Yeah.
And to add on what everybody else has already said, as a dungeon master, you need to take into consideration your players as well, because not every person loves to role play. Not every person loves to do a lot of combat.
True.
So you as a DM, you have to take all of your players' needs into consideration and you're not going to make everybody happy 100% of the time. And keep rubbing your chest like that, Will. You just keep going. But anyways...
oh my god!
You as a DM, just take into consideration your players, and if you can do that, and to touch on what everybody else has said, you will keep your players engaged, and they will keep coming back for more.
Yeah.
So that's the whole point. And when you do that, that you're in a state of nirvana when your players keep coming back for more.
Since you didn't mention it, you said not every player loves to role play, not every player loves combat. A lot of DMs ask me, how do I know? How do I know what gets my players engaged? Ask them.
Yeah.
Ask
them.
Seriously.
Yeah. Don't guess.
Yeah. Always have that conversation. Yeah. Ask them. It's not a crime to ask your players, hey, what makes or breaks a campaign for you, right?
Yeah. I totally agree, and I'll say something else too. If you can include a mix of these things, right? And in the aggregate over the course of, 4 sessions, you've had some combat, you've had some role playing. Not only will that allow you to balance things off and build trust, you'll often find that the people who started by saying, I really just love combat, or I really only like role playing, will actually come to like aspects of the other parts. It may just be because
they've never had, they've never
but
experienced
they'll only
a good version of both.
Right, but they'll only trust you to do it if you provide, as Dave said, what they need. Like, you provide them some of the combat that they want or some of the RP that they want. That will give them a chance to do things later on. So that'll be there as well. I can't even see. I got to stop now before we get into this text icon thing. So, gentlemen, let us wrap this up. Let us wrap this up with. Let me start with Will. Will, when are the folks? First of all, where can they find you, and when will they see you next before?
You can come meet us out in Montreal tonight if you're about. Hit me up on Twitter.
Yes, what bar will you be at? Please let everyone know and the address.
Really fucked right now. You'll see me tomorrow on the Wizards of the Coast D&D channel at 6 p.m. Eastern. We're playing Alone by Players, the D&D series, which hopes to incorporate some of the aspects of this show with an actual play show as well. Got a great cast and crew joining us then. In fact, yes, it is tomorrow. Yes, tomorrow is Saturday. That is when you'll see me next. Otherwise, you'll see me on the Encounter Roleplay channel. Of course, you guys, I'm a D&D sex icon. You can find me over there. Twitch.tv/Encounter Roleplay for a whole load of Dungeons and Dragons. And somehow, over the course of every show, the show opens up. I don't know how.
I like how
it's time locked.
I swear to God, I thought you said for a minute, I'm a D&D sex icon. You can find me over there. And I'm like, is there a D&D sex icon page?
Right over there. He's over there.
Like .org, like .xxx. Like, where is this? Do I need to know this? Like, Jesus, I don't even want to go down that path because, oh my God, we have to wait till after midnight Eastern for that. But thanks, Will. Great work today. Moving on down to Askren. Askren, when will the fine folks see or hear from you next, sir?
I want to give a big thanks, first of all, to Arv for inviting me out and for putting this together. Great panelists here, and I think this is going to be a lot of fun in the long run.
Yeah.
I love sitting and talking about D&D. For those of you guys who are here who do not know me, or a lot of my friends in chat might, my name is Askren, and I am the host and dungeon master over on twitch.tv/exploding dice. Like Will and like everyone, Arv and everyone else here, it is a role-playing channel where we have live role-playing games, talk shows, all that kinds of stuff. You will see me next tomorrow, Saturday at 9 p.m. Eastern, where I am dungeon mastering Writhing Moon. It is our open legend horror campaign. It is a really crazy, if you like blood and guts and you like mystery and drama and supernatural nightmares and eldritch horrors and like Bloodborne and BioShock and all those other great games. It's got all that mixed in there, and it's just a damn good time with some great role players. That is going to be at 9 p.m. Eastern, and then the night after that, of course, I am playing Mouse Guard: The Dark Spring. Also, we've got a roundtable coming on, a Dungeon Master roundtable. Some more Dungeon Master
more
stuff.
roundtabling.
Come join us, guys. We have a Discord. We have a Twitch channel, and we love to see you there and hang out and just see your beautiful faces. And that's it. I have nothing else to say. Oh, you can follow me on Twitter at Askren.
Good stuff, man. Last but certainly not least, before I say who I am, since you guys are on my channel already, of course, Dave. Dave, it was a great pleasure. I'm glad we were able to do this and get this started. Where can the people find you next, online, elsewhere, sir?
You can find me all over the place, actually. I do a lot of games here on Twitch. You can check out my channel at twitch.tv/thedigitalDM, or you can check out my YouTube channel at /Dave32780. And I have all kinds of live games. I do a bunch of live games, tons of tutorials on Fantasy Grounds, Starfinder, 5e, all kinds of stuff. And we'll see you there. You can follow me on Twitter and Facebook and all that other social media stuff also.
Awesome.
It's up to you, Arv. And following up last but not least, it's Arvid Ellerin.
Yes, it has been a great pleasure to have these guys on board. I'm very excited about it. We will be doing this once a month, and I will, once I let these guys go, I will wrap up my side of things. But for the D&D side, I run, at the moment, 3 campaigns online. One of them is with the GOG Twitch channel, GOG with D&D with GOG, Storm King's Thunder. I've been playing with them. Very enthusiastic crew. That's a lot of fun. I play with them once a month. Twice a month, I play with D&D with Infinity and Beyond. That is my flagship campaign, playing the Rise of Tiamat. That is level 10. They just got through talking to a bunch of dragons, and now they got to go deal with the Lord's Council, and it's awesome, and I love it. Also, really good role players with that crew. And then last but certainly not least online is the one that Will is in, and that is the Adventures of Middle-earth campaign, which I also love because of the Tolkien connection, but also because all the players are invested with it, and we have just added a 4th player who is a Hugo Award-winning fantasy author named Amal El-Motar. I am very excited about having her on board. She's going to be joining us in November, so that is going to be cool stuff, and you guys should check it out as soon as you can. Gentlemen, this was a great pleasure, as I knew it would be. I'm going to see all of you wonderful guys next month, and I will see you, of course, elsewhere as on individual channels and so forth. So, chat, can we get some love for Will, for Dave, and for Askren? Great job. Guys, go do whatever you want to do. Will get drunk, but get home safe, please. Tell Sydney to get you home safe. And Askren, have fun with your game. Dave, I'll talk to you later. Guys, great job. I'll see you guys soon.
Yeah. Thanks, guys. It was a blast. Bye, everybody.
All right. And there we go. Leave the meeting. There we go. Good stuff, guys. All right. So that was the inaugural Masters of the Dungeon show, and I hope that you guys enjoyed it as much as I did. If you did enjoy it, please make sure to follow this channel and check us out, as I said, with the D&D stuff that's going to happen. I hope you really enjoyed it. It was awesome. Great. Thank you so much, Lily. And, of course, I know Lily plays on one of Will's games, maybe a couple of them, but I know at least one of them, the Call of Cthulhu game he was talking about before. So I am going to take now about a 15-minute break. So I'm going to stop the stream, and then I will come back, and I will be playing a couple of hours of The Last Guardian. That's why I have to take a break, because I need to set up my PS4 to stream and everything, and not just, I can't go straight over into a PC game. So I'm going to be playing some Last Guardian for a couple hours, so I will be back over with you guys in about 15 minutes, but please do not leave if you like storytelling and stuff like that, because I'll still be here. But if you do have to bail out, I understand. Please make sure, if you do so, to follow the channel, as Splattered Ink just did. Thank you for the new subs tonight as well. We got a couple of resubs and also a new sub from Grant Ellis tonight, so thank you so much for the subs. I also have a Patreon. This right here allows you to actually inspire the players during our D&D games. So every month, if you support the Patreon at a certain level, you're able to give the players an inspiration, which helps in any of the campaigns or any of the things that I run, whether it's D&D with viewers, whether it's on GOG, whether it's over here. So there's a fair bit of time to be able to use it. I also do Fighting Fantasy Gamebook playthroughs too, which is almost like D&D with chat at once. So Twitch plays. So that's good stuff. But thank you so much to Exploding Dice. Thank you so much to the Digital DM, and thank you so much to Encounter Roleplay. That's Askren, Dave, and Will, respectively. These guys are awesome, really talented DMs and good guys and all friends, and I was glad that we got a chance to do it, and we will do it again with episode 2 next month. But that's it for me for now. I'll be back, as I say, in about 15-20 minutes or so. But until then, everyone be good to each other and keep playing D&D because it's awesome. I'll be right back at you guys in about 15, so don't go anywhere, but I'm going to stop the stream now. Thanks for being around here, and I'll catch you guys soon. Bye for now.